What's up, vapors? Thanks for checking out Spinfuel's Daily Vape TV. My name is Nick, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Evic VT. Alright guys, so before I get into the review, I do want to give a huge shout out to Vapor Beast. They're the ones that sent me this thing for review. So if you want to pick up one of these babies for yourself, make sure you click the link in the description I have for you there. That'll take you right to vaporbeast.com and you can pick up one of these babies for yourself. So, getting on with the review, first of all, it has a 5,000 milliamp hour built-in battery, and that's, I believe it's 3 lithium polymer batteries stacked in series so that you get the 5,000 milliamps of power, which I really like that fact. This thing lasts for a long time. It is 510 threaded, so you can not only use the Ego 1 Mega tank that's supplied with it, or any other tank that you have. Maybe you have another sub-ohm tank or a dripper, anything like that. You can fit it on there, no problem. The output modes it has are variable temperature in nickel, variable temperature in titanium, and variable wattage as well, so it does support all three. The temperature range is 100 to 315 Celsius or 200 to 600 Fahrenheit. The operating wattage is 1 to 60 watts. The operating output voltage is 0.5 volts to 8 volts. The resistance range is 0.05 to 1 ohm for variable temperature modes and 0.15 to 3.5 ohms in variable wattage mode. So make sure, if you're building your own nickel coils for this thing, make sure it's above 0.05, otherwise you could fry it, so just be careful. It is charged via USB. That's a micro USB, which I'll show you better view of that in the close-ups. And it also has a 4 ml capacity in the tank, so you get a lot of e-liquid in that little tank, and it kind of surprised me how long the battery lasts, how long you go in between fills of the tank. This thing is really impressive. So let's have a few puffs on it real quick. We'll go down into the close-up mode and we'll talk about it some more. Alright guys, so here it is, the Evic VT. As you can see on my box here, it says sample not for sale, and I do want to give a huge shout out again to Vapor Beast for that. Let's take a quick look at the packaging. As you can see on the outside here, it says it has little degrees in Celsius and Fahrenheit. I think that's kind of clever, considering this is a variable temperature device. It says here, variable temperature VT control system. It has nickel and titanium, 60 watts, 8 volts. Otherwise, pretty plain old packaging. Just has the website and the Joytech logo. And the color indicator on the bottom there. Now, I believe all of the boxes have the orange one on the front. They are just listed on the back as far as which color it actually is. And if you can see that, hopefully, let's get a close-up here. Hopefully you can see it says Racing Yellow. That's the name of my color, even though it's obviously orange, but hey, that's what it is, I suppose. It's kind of like the red version of the iStick being pink. But it has a standard list of products that are included with it. Something is crossed out here. It says something adapter. Doesn't matter. Either way, it has the atomizer, the tube, the atomizer heads, the base itself, drip tip or mouthpiece, the Evic VT itself, USB cable and a wall adapter, and the skin. And it also has the information, the warranty card and whatnot. But let's get into it. So first things first, we have our Evic VT. So we'll just take that out and put that aside. And that did come in wrapped in some plastic. And underneath you have the tank. There you go. We'll just take that out of the package. Oh, focus, focus. There we go. So there we have our tank. I'm just going to quickly connect the two up. Next we have our silicone skin with an extra titanium coil inside. I don't know where my charger is. It's in one of my boxes. I just moved, if you couldn't tell by the different room. I just moved, so I can't find my charger. But it's just a regular USB, micro USB with a wall adapter. Pretty simple stuff. So this is the menu, or the manual, I should say. Pretty informational considering. I like the amount of pictures in it. It's definitely a big help. I think the more pictures the better when it comes to this kind of thing. So you also have a little warranty card with a little authenticator scratch symbol there. You want to make sure you're getting legit stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and put everything back in the box that I'm not going to be using right now. I like the silicone case, but it really detracts from the color of it. I love the bright orange, and it does have like a nice little sparkle to it, which is nice. So I kind of just leave it alone like that. Alright, we'll toss that aside and take a look at the Evic VT itself in all its glory. We'll go piece by piece here, I suppose. Actually, you know what? We'll do this. We'll go through the menus. First of all, I'm not a big fan of the menu system. I like the layout of the menu. I just don't like how it is getting to these, the system itself. Hopefully you guys can see 3 clicks to actually access the menu, and you can change that from titanium, voltage, or wattage I should say, and nickel. Now this is a nickel coil in here, so I am going to leave it on nickel and press it left to go down. Now you can't go back up. If you try to go right, it's just going to change the wattage on this, and you just hold down the toggle switch and it goes all the way up to 60 and it stops there. If you press it again, it goes back to 30 and resets, and you're going to do it all over again. That's a little bit annoying. I tend to miss my mark whenever I do it, so a little bit annoying for me. Not the best system in the world, but you know, firmware could change that. I don't know. Also, you have your resistance of your atomizer. Now this you can change on the variable temperature modes. You can lock it into place when you find that it's the right resistance. So you want to do that when the atomizer is cold. You don't want to use a warm atomizer resistance reading for your actual resistance. Otherwise it's not going to be as accurate. So finally you have your battery meter. If you click it the other way, you can have your puff counter, which I think is pretty much useless. I don't think they should have even included that. Or your vaping time, again, completely useless. No one's really going to pay attention to that, but the battery is the most crucial one, and it is very accurate. Plenty of battery life, so that's good to know. Click the button to get out of the menu, and I don't know if you can hear that, but it's a bit rattly. Not my favorite button in the world. But that's besides the point. I mean, the toggle switch is pretty good too, but it does feel a bit cheap. Not anything that's going to really detract from me purchasing it, but just felt like mentioning it. So here's the Evic VT tank. It's an Ego 1 Mega tank. Has a nice large juice capacity. A little on the tricky side to fill unless you have like a unicorn bottle or something like that, or a needle tip bottle. Then it becomes a little bit easier. The mouthpiece is not my favorite mouthpiece in the world, but it does have Delrin on the inside here, which makes it nice and cool so it doesn't heat up on you, which is a nice touch. Not the worst mouthpiece ever, but it does feel a little bit cheap as well. I usually just swap it out for another one. That being said, here's the coil itself. Let's get a nice close-up of that. There you go. And that's the Ego 1 nickel coil. It's also available in titanium and standard Kanthal. The resistance on the nickel coil is 0.2. On the titanium it's 0.4. And on the regular Kanthal it's 0.5. So there you go. There's that information. And as you can see, instead of a serial number, mine says not for sale. It's pretty cool. And this is the toggle switch in the close-up here. Little bit cheap. Not my favorite UI system, but I think I can live with it. As far as turning the device on, on and off, it's just 5 clicks. Done. Off. And it's just like that. It's instantaneous on and off, so there's no excuse for not turning it off before putting it in your pocket. On the bottom here you can see the ventilation holes for the batteries. I believe that there's 3 batteries in a series for this specific model here. And Smoke and Joey actually had a problem with his batteries were rattling around on him. I never had that issue, but you know, maybe that's just because of the pre-production mode. And I really don't think this lighting and this camera can do this color scheme any justice. Like, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It has a little bit of a sparkle to it. If you really can get close up, I don't know if you can see that at all, but I love the color scheme of this thing. I'm not a big fan of the baby blue and white or the black and red, but hey, the orange and black really does it for me, so way to go, Joytech. So real quick, I did want to mention the fact that using this thing with other atomizers might lead to, you know, a little bit of gap, as you can see here. It's a con for me personally. I don't like gaps in my atomizer decks, and I'm tightening it down all the way. I definitely can't get any more of that anymore on there. It's definitely nice and tight. So if you're screwing other atomizers on there, you might have a little gap like that, but I've used this with other ones. Let's just throw an Arctic tank on there real quick and see if we can get it to sit flush. So the Arctic tank sits nice and flush. So it's probably just going to be a few random, maybe the extra long posts on the 510 or something like that, or on the positive pin, I should say. Maybe that's the reason, but just felt like mentioning it. So that about does it for the close-ups. Let's move on to some of my thoughts and some pros and cons. Alright guys, that was the close-up section of the video. Now let's move on to some of my personal thoughts on this device, some pros, some cons, and whether or not I would purchase it. And first of all, I want to tell you a little story. I went down to VCCPA in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with Spin Fuel, met up with Smoke and Joey, and we were sitting at our booth vaping on our Evic VTs. Everyone kept coming up to us, asking us what it was, how much was it, were they selling them at the show, a bunch of questions. And, you know, these were definitely the star of that show. Everyone wanted to know what this is and how they could get one. I even got Joe Barnett of the Vaping Militia to buy one right on the spot because he liked mine so much. So that just goes to show that I think this device is going to be big time. So if you haven't already got one of these things, I would definitely recommend it. That being said, the temperature control on it is a little bit fiddly. Normally I use my devices at 450 degrees Fahrenheit because cotton tends to burn between 450 and 500. With this device I usually have to bump it up between 540 degrees and 590 degrees because I can't get a decent pull off of it like I do off of my other tanks and temp control setups. That being said, I think that the firmware could definitely have an upgrade and that could be fixed. I have yet to see anything about a new firmware being released or anything like that, and if that does happen, I will be the first one to have it for sure, because I think that this device is definitely going to revolutionize the way we think about the starter kit. Let's get into some pros and cons. First pro is going to be battery life. 5,000 milliamp hour capacity is tons of battery life. This thing lasts me a day and a half with normal use. I even packed up all my vape gear after the second day of VCCPA, and I used this thing for about a day during my travels, and lasted me the entire time. That being said, I want to also mention the juice capacity. It has a 4 mil capacity, which is more than the Arctic tank. It's more than the Atlantis V1. This thing definitely kills it with the juice capacity. It lasts me a few days in there at least. Airflow is also a pro for me. I love the airflow in this. It's kind of shocking how much airflow you get considering how small those holes are. But yes, you do get plenty of airflow, and I'm definitely the lung inhaler, and I enjoy the airflow on this nice loose draw, which I like. The screen on it is gorgeous. I think the screen is perfect. They don't need to change a thing about the screen in my book. Leave it exactly how it is. I love the layout of it. Easy to read, very intuitive. And the price versus the value of this, this is going for $103.49 on VaporBeast.com. So I think that's a very reasonable price for anyone that's looking to get a really solid starter kit. And I call it a starter kit because I believe that this could be a lot of people's first devices, and they would not be sad about that purchase. I really think that this is going to revolutionize how we think about the new starter kits. That being said, let's get into some cons. First of all, there's no floating pin in the 510 connection. Now, this is meant to be used in a pair. The Ego 1 Mega was meant to go on the Evic VT, and vice versa. And I really think that they never meant for you to take off that tank. But I really wanted to use my little shiny Tugboat V2 here with the nickel build in it. So I tried to use it on here, and it stuck out. There was a big gap underneath. However, it still looked pretty nice to me, so I just went with it. It looked really gorgeous. So that kind of bothers me that your devices aren't going to sit fully flush all the time, but everything that I've put on here works so far. The tank itself leaks a tiny bit. Even when you're just moving around, it tends to have a little bit of juice coming out the air holes sometimes, and sometimes you can also get a gurgle to it, so that's why I mentioned my next con, which is the coils. I've never been a huge fan of the Ego 1 coils, and that still stays true to this day. I really wish they would have put a Delta 2 on top of here instead, made it orange or whatever the color that you get it in. I think that would have looked sharp and added a little bit extra value to it, but that's just me. I think that the normal consumer might not be worried about that kind of thing. It's also, this is very subjective con, but it's a fingerprint magnet. You're never going to not have fingerprints on it unless you're using the silicone sleeve, and still in that case it doesn't cover the top, which you are going to be touching all the time controlling this thing. So it is a massive fingerprint magnet. So that's a con, very subjective con. And my final con is going to be the user interface. Never been a huge fan of the left-right toggle switch with the 3 clicks to get into the menu. That just kind of feels a little old school for me. I wish they would have added a couple extra buttons on here to make that user interface a lot easier. It's definitely doable. I feel like in the next version that might be the case, I hope. But that'll be seen. That's still up in the air, obviously. And finally, I do want to mention, I really wish they would have moved the charging port down to the bottom of the device. Just kind of, it would give it a more flush look like this side here. Just gives it a nice clean look. With that charging port there, it's just kind of in the way. I really wish they would have put it on the bottom. So that being said, whether or not I would purchase this device if I did not receive it for free? And my answer would still be yes. I really think this is the device for anybody, experienced vapor, newbie vapor, anyone that's looking to quit smoking. This device can be used by anyone, and I think it's a great value for the money. So if you'd like to purchase one, make sure you go to the link in the description. I'll have it down there for you. That's vaporbeast.com. They're also the ones that gave me this device for free for the purpose of review. So thank you guys so much for that. That about does it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button if you like this video, and subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. Also check out www.spinfuel.com for lots more of my videos, as well as Smoke and Joey and Spin Fuel videos. And as always, vape on.